Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. The topic that we are to discuss today is the usage of natural science methods in a sociological research. Or, in other words, the possibility as well as desirability to use natural science methods in a sociological research. Natural science methods हैं क्या? When we talk about natural science methods, methods that are used by physics, methods that are used by chemistry, methods that are used in math, they're typically referred to as natural science methods. What is it that makes these natural science methods any different from the methods that we do not refer to as natural science methods? The methods that are used in sciences are assumed to be objective, that is, they do not have your biasness in them. They're assumed to be uh, uh, they assume to follow protocols. There are certain established rules and regulations and laws that they follow, and that is how scientific researches are conducted. Now, the question again is it possible to use the methods that are used in sociology? Sorry, is it possible that we could use the methods that are used in natural sciences for a sociological research? One possibility. And number two, the second factor that we need to take into account over here is accountability. Is it possible or is it desirable? क्या ये possible है या क्या ये desirable है कि natural science methods को sociological researches के लिए use किया जाए? Now, before we begin with this, before we start, I'd want you all to have a look at a couple of questions. Let's start from questions that have been a part of, that have been tested through the CIEs before any one of you was born. So in November 2020, November 2003, that is good, 23 years ago, we had a question that said, sociological research can and should be based. Sociological research can and should be based on methods of natural science. Can over here has to do with possibility and should be has to do with desirability. Discussed back then, the word used was used to be discussed. And then we see we've had a question in May, June 2005 as well, a question in 2005 November, a question in May, June 2007, a question in May, June 2008, and a question in November 2010, November 2011, May, June 2012, November 2013. Let's go fast forward here and have a look at a couple of questions from 2021 onwards. And the questions that you see over here that have been highlighted in purple, the questions that you see highlighted in purple are the questions that we've had on this particular topic after a syllabus and the paper structure changed in 2021. तो पुरानी relevance तो इस topic की CI के साथ बहुत ज्यादा है ही. The question is, how relevant are these topics today? Today, if we have a look at the current syllabus, for what I recall, if you go through the specimen paper that we had for paper one, the specimen paper that was published before the testing for this particular syllabus and paper structure took place, उस specimen paper के अंदर भी we have a question on natural sciences. And if we have a look at this question that we had in November 2021, variant 1.1, evaluate the view that sociological research should be based on methods of natural sciences. One. Another question that we've had in November 2021, variant 1.3, and the question is the same because typically we see the questions from November 2021, both variant 1.1 and 1.3. At times, the examiner uses the same questions. Again, let's move on to March 2022. Evaluate the view that research methods of the natural sciences should be used in sociological research. So the previous two questions that we had in November 2021, even if we're counting them both as a single question, we've had a question again on this particular topic in March 2022. Taking this a little further, we've had a question on this particular topic again in March 2023, and the question reads, evaluate the view that the research methods of the natural sciences should not be used in sociological research. So we've been questioned on this as 26 markers, thrice for now. And if we take this ahead in May, June 2022, variant 1.2, that is Zone 4 Pakistan paper, evaluate the view that sociologists should use the scientific approach to research. 4 times, a 26 marker. Taking it further, we've had a 26 marker on this again, the 5th time. That is in May, June 2024, variant 1-2. The question reads, evaluate the view that scientific methods have no value in sociological research. 5 times here, and that's it. So the last we've been tested on this has been in May, June 2024, variant 1-2. And it's we have not been tested on this particular topic in May, June 2024, May, June 2025, or for the matter of fact, November 2025. Now, having said that, if we take this a little, so I'm sorry, we don't have the question for November 2025 in front of us right now. And I mean, I can still confirm it, but it would take me a minute or so. So yes, from from May 2021 to May 2025, we've had questions on this at least 5 times. Now, having said that, let's get started with the topic. And Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Evaluate the view that natural science methods can and should be used in a sociological research. Now, I would have wanted to show you the marking scheme for this question as well, but let's just cover the content first, and then we have a look at the marking scheme. So to begin with, on one extreme, we have the positivist point of view, and on the other extreme, we have the interpretivist point of view. Let me remind you all, as we've always talked about the positivist perspective or the positivist stance over here, positivists believe that natural science methods can and should be used. They can be used and they should be used in for sociological researches. Positivists ये claim करते हैं कि natural science methods sociology के अंदर इस्तेमाल किए जा सकते हैं और किए जाने चाहिए. So the possibility and desirability both. On one extreme, we have positivists here. So positive sociology as a positive science of society. Natural science methods, according to positivists, would help reveal invariable laws. Natural science data consists of observable facts that can be directly measured, that can be directly quantified. And positivists believe that they aim to, or sociology aims to discover cause and effect relationship when it comes to the social structures of society. Now, what needs to be understood over here is that the positivists believe that natural science methods can and should be used for a sociological research. According to positivists, when we're conducting a research, initially we come up with a hypothesis. We initially have a theory, and through that theory, we turn that theory into a hypothesis. Theory is anything that you have in your mind. Hypothesis, a testable theory or something that you have in your mind which still requires testing. So this hypothesis is then tested according to positivists. And when you've tested a hypothesis, you either confirm your findings, or you'd be like, okay, fine, this is a hypothesis that we had in our mind. And yes, through the research that we conducted, whatever the hypothesis has been confirmed. Okay? Or you could modify it, or you could reject it. So let's just say, if I make you an example, if I'd be like, Apple products are better than Samsung products, a hypothesis that I have maybe. So either this hypothesis, after I test this, I could either confirm this hypothesis, or I could modify this hypothesis, or I could reject this hypothesis. Now, this particular approach, beta, we refer to this as the deductive approach. Now, what is this deductive approach? This deductive approach, we also refer to this as the top-down approach or the top-down theory. Why a top-down theory? Because, it all starts through a theory. Like I said, initially you have a theory. Based on that theory, you come up with a hypothesis. Then you test that hypothesis. You could test that hypothesis through an observation or through any other measurable parameter. And then based on the testing process that you made your hypothesis go through, you either confirm your findings, or you modify them, or you reject them. So this was a bit about the positivist perspective. Now, let me quickly take you to the book to see what the book has to say over here. Positivism and Natural Science Methodology. The early positivists saw sociology as a positive science of society. They argued that natural science methodology was appropriate for the study of human behavior. Its use would reveal the invariable laws. The usage of natural science methods would reveal the invariable laws. Like we have laws in science, like the law of gravity. You let go of something, it comes down. Law of gravity. You push something, it pushes you back. The third law of motion. So its use, that is the usage of natural science methods, would reveal the invariable laws that govern the society. Just like we have laws that provide us with an explanation of how things happen around in the scientific world, according to positivists, if we start using these natural science methods in a sociological research, we would be able to reveal, the word over here is reveal, we'd be able to reveal invariable laws that govern society. Data consist of observable facts which could be directly measured and quantified. The research process would be objective, free from the researcher's values. So, in a nutshell, according to the positivist perspective, natural science methods should be used in a sociological research. Natural science methods can be used in a sociological research. Positivists aim to discover the cause and effect relationships that are seen as underlying human behavior. Positivists claim करते हैं कि जैसे साइंस के अंदर आप लोग causal relationships figure out करते हैं. Causal relationships comes from the word causation. This word causation comes from the word cause. Now, from the word cause comes the word causation or causal relationship or cause and effect relationship. Positivists aim to discover the cause and effect relationships that are seen as underlying human behavior. According to positivists, the way we're able to explain matter, the way we're able to explain certain scientific phenomena that that are there around us. Likewise, we would be able to, or we'd be in a position to explain human behavior as well. And we'd be able to explain human behavior by using cause and effect relationships, by working it through the cause and effect relationship. So positivists aim to discover the cause and effect relationships that are seen as underlying human behavior. According to the positivist stance over here, human behavior को अगर आपने समझना है तो human behavior को समझने के लिए आपको cause and effect relationships को figure out करना पड़ेगा. For that, according to the positivist perspective, you'd be expected to use statistical techniques or quantifiable data or numeric data. Statistical techniques are applied to numerical data in order to identify and measure possible cause and effect relationships. A hypothesis or a prediction is developed then. A hypothesis translates the theory into a form that can be tested, like I explained. Observation and measurements are then used either to accept, reject the hypothesis. This in turn can result in a confirmation, a modification, or a rejection of a theory. So in a nutshell, what I'd explained you a couple of minutes ago, according to the positivist perspective, all right, now we also refer to this as the hypothetico-deductive research method. Hypothetico-deductive research method. Write it down if you feel like, or take a screenshot real quick. A hypothetical deductive research method. So the idea is you have a theory. Based on a theory, you come up with a hypothesis, and then you measure that hypothesis. And based on the based on the you measure it or you test it on based on the tests that you've performed, you would either be able to confirm that hypothesis, or you'd be able to modify that hypothesis, or you'd be able to reject that hypothesis. So it all starts right at the top, and that is exactly why we refer to this as a top down approach. So you have a theory, आपके जहन में एक आइडिया है, उस आइडिया को आप एक हाइपोथेसिस की फॉर्म में लाते हैं, उस हाइपोथेसिस को फिर आप टेस्ट करते हैं, और उस हाइपोथेसिस की टेस्टिंग के बाद आप इस नतीजे पे पहुंचते हैं कि आपकी जो इनिशियल थ्योरी थी, हाइपोथेसिस था, क्या वो सही साबित हुआ है, या उसमें कोई मॉडिफिकेशन दरकार है, या वो रिजेक्ट करना पड़ेगा आपको. नाउ टेकिंग दिस अहेड, this process is known as the deductive approach. It is sometimes described as a top-down approach, as it starts at the top from a theory and then moves downwards. Today, few quantitative researchers would call themselves positivists. I repeat, today, few quantitative researchers would call themselves positivists. This is partly because the term positivist is sometimes used in a negative way. It is also partly because quantitative sociologists do not look for laws underlying human behavior. Now, remember, we have always talked about how positivists support the idea of using quantitative methods. So the line that I just read says, today, many quantitative, where's the line? Today, This is partly because the term positivist, where you go. Today, few quantitative researchers, we're using the word quantitative researchers. So according to this, अक्सर वो जो quantitative researchers हैं, आज खुद को वो positivist नहीं कहते. आज वो खुद को positivist इसलिए नहीं कहते because they don't believe that eventually we would be able to have laws on human behavior. According to the positivist perspective, we would eventually have laws on human behavior. According to Auguste Comte, the person who coined the word sociology, we would eventually have laws on human behavior. And many quantitative researchers, they today do not agree. They don't agree to the idea that we could have laws on human behavior. I don't agree to it either, if that matters. So taking this a little further from here, it is also partly because quantitative sociologists do not look for laws underlying human behavior, as few, if any, now believe that such laws exist. Nor do they necessarily start their research with a hypothesis. They do, however, attempt to generalize from quantitative data based in the representative sample. One down, we just spoke about how positivists support the idea of natural science methods being used in sociology, how positivists support the idea of natural science methods being used in sociology. So if we talk about a quick summary here, positivists claim that science uses established methods and procedures, and that these methods and procedures can be applied to social sciences. So we spoke about established methods and procedures here. And these established procedures and methods, according to positivists, can be used in social sciences. And over here, we're talking about sociology as a social science here. One. Number two, they believe social facts can be observed objectively, measured and quantified. Positivists कहते हैं कि जो social facts हैं उनको हम objectively observe कर सकते हैं, बगैर किसी bias के उन्हें observe कर सकते हैं, उन्हें हम measure कर सकते हैं, ना सिर्फ हम उन्हें measure कर सकते हैं, हम उन्हें quantify भी कर सकते हैं. Number three, analysis of statistics can reveal correlations. So correlations, the relationship between any two variables, the quantifiable, the quantitative or quantifiable relationship between two variables. According to positivists, analysis of statistics, in statistics को जब आप analyze करते हैं तो आप correlations को reveal कर सकते हैं, जो कि ultimately, and these correlations would eventually turn into causations leading to laws on human behavior. Now, for instance, if I may give you a quick little example, if I say back in 2025, there was a rise in the unemployment rate. And at the same time, there was a rise in the crime rate. Now, this we'd be able to figure out only when we have numbers, only when we have quantitative data. Is quantitative data ki basis pe, according to positivists, we could easily form correlations. We could try to figure out the relationship between two variables. And these correlations can eventually turn into causations. इन correlations को test करके हम cause and effect relationship को figure out करने की कोशिश कर सकते हैं. और जब हम cause and effect relationship को figure out कर पाए तो हम eventually laws बना सकते हैं human behavior के ऊपर, ठीक उसी तरीके से जैसे हमारे पास scientific world के अंदर laws हैं. Positivists see the use of scientific methods as highly desirable, and they tend to be critical of those sociologists who study subjective and unobservable mental states. So, long story short, positivists support the idea of natural science methods being used in a sociological research. One down, let's take this ahead and move on to the second. Meanwhile, if anyone wants to take a screenshot of this, you may quickly take a screenshot of this and then copy this later in your notebook. This would help you revise better. So if you're done with this, let's quickly move on to another theorist here, referred to as Popper, Karl Popper. Karl Popper, born 1902, died 1994. According to Karl Popper, if you have a look at what Karl Popper has to say, even Karl Popper believed that natural science methods should be used in a scientific research. See, we are, one, trying to understand the topic, and number two, we're trying to figure out how the content that we are studying would eventually help us in terms of answering a 26-mark question in our CIs. क्या हम एक 26 मार्क के क्वेश्चन को आंसर कर पाएंगे अकॉर्डिंग टू, if we end up getting one? Let's quickly have a look at an answer. So November 2021 variant 11, the marking scene first at least. Yeah. So November 2021 variant 11, this question. Evaluate the view that sociological research should be based on the methods of natural sciences. This is a 26 mark question. This is from October, November 2021, variant 11. In support of this, we have positivist view about objectivity, value, freedom, and reliability. And yes, if you take this ahead, we see positivism written over here that we just studied. And now we'd be discussing Popper. That is Karl Popper. Like I said, he was born in 1902 and he died in 1994. Now, taking this ahead, Popper believes natural science methods can and should be used in a sociological research. However, Popper claims this or argues there's a condition that needs to be met as well. Now, according to Popper, he used the deductive approach in a different way. He started with a theory like the positivist did, like the hypothetical deductive research method does, or like the deductive approach claims. But according to Popper, instead of trying to prove your theory right, according to Popper, instead of trying to prove your theory right, a sociologist should try to prove his or her theory wrong. Yes, you heard me right. According to Popper, instead of trying to prove your theory right, a sociologist should work towards proving his theory wrong or her theory wrong. Why? And this he refers to as falsification. Why the word falsification? Falsification, like I said, trying to prove your theory wrong. अपनी theory को गलत prove करने की कोशिश करें, according to Popper. According to Popper, if a sociologist tries to prove his or her theory right, if a sociologist tries to prove his or her theory right, that in other words means your values would be a part of it. Now, for instance, if I say Apple products are better than Samsung products, and if I want to test this, just because at the back of my mind, I feel like or I think that Apple products are better than Samsung products, I would try to look for data. I would try to look for evidence that supports my theory. I would try to look for evidence that supports my claim that Apple products are better than Samsung products. According to Popper, आप अगर अपनी थ्योरी को सही प्रूव करने की कोशिश करेंगे तो आपकी वैल्यूज ऑफ कोर्स आपकी रिसर्च का हिस्सा बनेंगी and you do whatever it takes probably to prove your point correct. According to Popper, instead of trying to prove your theory right, what a sociologist should do is a sociologist should try to the best of his or her capacity to prove his or her theory wrong. अपनी थ्योरी को जब आप गलत प्रूव करने की कोशिश करते हैं और लेट्स जस्ट से आप सक्सीड कर जाते हैं, आप अपनी थ्योरी को गलत प्रूव कर लेते हैं, अगर आप अपनी थ्योरी को गलत प्रूव करने में कामयाब हो गए तो that in other words means you were never right. What I said was, if you were if you try to prove your theory wrong, that is if you try to falsify your theory, and if you succeed in falsifying your theory, that in other words means you were never right at the first place to begin with. However, if you were not able to prove your theory right, according to Popper, no, wait, I made a boo boo. Sorry. However, if you were not able to prove your theory wrong, according to Popper, that means whatever your theory was is provisionally correct. I'm using the word provisional here. That is, we cannot be certain or hold this concrete or hold this absolute view कि हमने वो थ्योरी गलत नहीं प्रूव कर पाए तो दैट इन अदर वर्ड्स मींस हम सही ही हैं। पॉपर क्लेम करता है ऐसा नहीं है। अगर आप अपनी थ्योरी को प्रूव नहीं कर पाए तो दैट मींस यू partially, or that means you just correct at this particular moment, in this particular context, in this particular situation. And he uses the word provisional here. And as he uses the word provisional, what this word over here means is, just because you were not proven, you were not successfully proven wrong right now, that doesn't at all mean you would be, or your theory would stand correct forever. It does not work like that according to Popper. Popper claims if you were not able to prove your theory wrong, that means you might be correct at this particular point. You don't know, 5 minutes from now, 15 minutes from now, a day from now, a month from now, a year from now, a decade from now, someone might come up with a theory that disapproves your theory totally. So according to Popper, instead of proving your theory right, a sociologist should try to the best of his or her capacity to prove his or her own theory wrong. I hope you understood. So, according to Popper, you start it with a theory. He looked for data that rejects the theory, or in other words, he tried falsifying his theory. And according to him, theories that survive falsification aren't necessarily true. And he claims scientific knowledge, if anything, is just provisional rather than absolute. It's not absolute. It's not 100% concrete. It's not 100% correct. Yeah, I think I said what I had to. Now, having said that, another condition. According to Popper, when you're forming a hypothesis, when you come up with a hypothesis, you as a sociologist should make sure that your hypothesis or your theory is falsifiable. The word I'm using over here is falsifiable. How is it that you could make your theory falsifiable? आप अपनी theory को falsifiable कैसे बना सकते हैं? According to Popper, आप अपनी theory को falsifiable बना सकते हैं by bringing in precision to it. आपकी theory precise होनी चाहिए, vague नहीं होनी चाहिए. आपकी थ्योरी जितनी स्पेसिफिक होगी किसी चीज से रिलेटेड, जितनी आपकी थ्योरी प्रिसाइज होगी, उतने ज्यादा चांसेस हैं आप अपनी थ्योरी को सही या गलत प्रूव कर पाए. If I may give you an example, I've been using this example about how Apple products are better than Samsung products. If someone asks me to be a little more specific, I'd say the ecosystem. If you're using an Apple cellular phone and a laptop, a MacBook, and an iPad, and an Apple TV, and a pencil, and what else do they have? An Apple Watch. And now I've heard they're coming up with this AI thing. If I'm not sure if that is even true, but yeah, having the same ecosystem. Now I was a little too specific about what I meant. Or if I may say, I like Apple because I like its battery. I just made it up. It's been a while I haven't used Samsung, so I can't really tell. I can't really make a comparison here. But for the sake of an example, I need to be precise about what I mean. Until and unless your theory is specific about something, until and unless your theory has precision to it, no one can prove you wrong. Or your theory doesn't remain falsifiable then. If I may give you an example here, if we speak about what do you call him? Karl Marx. If we talk about Karl Marx, don't get confused between the names. What we're discussing right now, the person we're discussing right now is Karl Popper, and the example that I'm giving you is of Karl Marx. According to Karl Marx, a time would come. I'm just giving an example here. According to Karl Marx, a time would come when all the proletariats, they'd stand up, unite together, and bring in a revolution. कार्ल मार्क्स कहता है कि ऐसा टाइम आएगा जब सारे प्रोलिटेरियट्स मुत्तहिद होके, यूनाइट होके एक रेवोल्यूशन लाएंगे. ऐसा रेवोल्यूशन लाएंगे जो कैपिटलिज्म को खत्म कर देगा. ऐसा रेवोल्यूशन लाएंगे जो सोसाइटी में कम्युनिज्म लेके आ जाएगा. वी ऑल You all should know this by now. And the question that rises is, can we prove Karl Marx wrong? No, we cannot. He died in 1883, but he did not specify कब तक आएगा ये revolution. अगर कार्ल मार्क्स स्पेसिफिकली कह के जाता कि इस डेट तक इंतजार कीजिएगा, अगर इस डेट तक रेवोल्यूशन नहीं आता, तो फिर हम कह सकते थे कि कार्ल मार्क्स गलत था. But he did not specify. He did not mention a date. And we cannot be, we cannot call him incorrect, or we cannot disapprove his theory because he did not specify any date to it. I hope you've understood this. Taking this a little further, so Popper claims natural science methods can and should be used in a sociological research. However, he had a condition. According to him, your theory should be crafted or designed in a manner that it can be falsified. It should be falsifiable. उसके अंदर ये ऑप्शन तो छोड़ें आपके वो गलत प्रूव की जा सके, और वो सिर्फ तब पॉसिबल है जब आपकी थ्योरी प्रिसाइजली क्राफ्टेड हो, प्रिसाइजली डिजाइंड हो. Now, two down. Let me see if we have an answer to this. I'm sure we do. I just want you all to give a quick read to the answer. So this is one way how you could put it. I think we'd have to look for a better answer for this. This is a tiny little answer, only 670 words. So for the ones who find it difficult to learn, you might as well just take a screenshot of this. Oh, I see Papa here. I just use this one for now. So if you have the booklet, this answer that you saw over here is 670 words only, approximately. There are 5 different answers that in fact, 6 different 26 mark answers that you'd come across in your booklet. Read through them. Don't just stick to this tiny one, because the answers that you have in the booklet, they have been written in a manner that they help the newbies, the ones who find it really challenging when it comes to learning, and the ones who have climbed the ladder up, and now they're once you have your base fixed, then it gets a little easier for you. So another strength of using scientific methods is replicability. Controlled experiments and structured questionnaires can be repeated by other researchers, allowing findings to be checked for consistency. As Popper argued, scientific research relies on falsification. This is what we just read, meaning that theories must be testable and open to disprove. This increases sociology's credibility and status as a discipline comparable to that of natural sciences. So that was one answer. I would like to show you another answer on this from Evaluate with Sociology. This is March 2022. So I will show you another answer, March 2022. Here, evaluate the view that the research methods of the natural sciences should not be used. अब यहाँ पे अगर if this says should not be used, that means हमारे पास Popper साहब, we'd be able to see him on the flip side of the coin. ये देखें, against view में Popper साहब आ गए यहाँ पे. And if we have a look at the answer for this, I have to look for him the opposite side. So this answer is 740 words. It keeps on increasing. Do we have Popper? Do we have Popper? Here we don't see him. And that's okay. We have this answer written multiple places, multiple times. March 2022, and then we have another answer in March 2023. So I need to take it a year ahead. This is on objectivity, and So this answer on the same topic, this is of 1040 words. Evaluate the view that sociology should be scientific, should use a scientific approach. You see positivism. Here, Popper's philosophy. See, you have ample of answers. Just read through them. As soon as you're done with the topic, figure out these questions, read through them, and you're good to go. Find the answer that suits you, or read all of them, and just after reading all of them, you might as well be able to write an answer on your own on this particular topic. That's what I expect you all to be doing to be able to score well. Now, let me take you to the marking scheme for this question. Here, evaluate the view that sociologists should use scientific approach to research, 26 mark question. Here you see Popper, and here you see positivism, and here you see, so we have about, so yeah. Now, getting back to this, we've already discussed. Getting back to the question. So we're done with positivism, we're done with Popper. Let's take this ahead and talk about grounded theories here. Now, remember, on one end, we spoke about the top-down approach. On one end, we spoke about the top-down approach. That is, what is this top-down approach? Top-down, I mean, from up, you come all the way down. So you have a theory. Based on that theory, you come up with a hypothesis. Then you test that particular hypothesis, and based on the results of that hypothesis, you either show conformity towards conformity, or you require a modification, or you reject your view or your hypothesis. On the other hand, if we speak about grounded theories and induction, the word grounded theory, see, you start from base. This is the base. My right hand, this is the base. So all the way up. And if I try explaining this to you in a simple manner, जब हम grounded theory की बात करते हैं, you're starting from the base. You don't have any hypothesis at the back of your mind. You just start with collecting data. Once you have collected your data, on the basis of the data that you've collected, you come up with an analysis, a step up. And based on the analysis that you've had, you then try to look for patterns, you then try to look for relationships, and based on that, you eventually come up with a theory. So it was totally the opposite of what we were discussing when we were discussing the deductive approach. The grounded theory, or use the word induction approach. So according to this grounded theory and induction approach, a sociologist should start it like a blank sheet without any preconceptions. अपने दिमाग में hypothesis लेके ना आए, अपने दिमाग में theory लेके ना आए. आप simply data gather करना शुरू करें. As a sociologist, according to this idea of grounded theory or induction, you as a sociologist, you're simply expected to be collecting data. If you have a hypothesis in your mind, based on the logic that if you have a hypothesis in your mind, your research might end up carrying your values, or in other words, your research might end up being subjective. What is subjective research? A subjective research is a research that is biased. क्योंकि मेरे दिमाग में था कि एप्पल प्रोडक्ट्स बेहतर होते हैं सैमसंग प्रोडक्ट से, that could eventually end up affecting my research. So instead of using the hypothetico-deductive research method, also known as the deductive approach, also known as the top-down theory, according to this concept, we should go the other way around. We should, according to this grounded theory, start with collecting data without any preconceived idea that you carry in your mind. And इस grounded theory को हम induction theory भी कहते हैं. So, according to this grounded theory or this induction approach, start like a blank sheet without any preconceptions, just the way Durkheim did. Remember the study that Durkheim conducted on suicide? Here we see Durkheim again. Here you go. Here, you want to see how this is used in an answer? I'll just show that to you as well. hopefully this answer does have reference to Durkheim. So different answers have been written in a manner that they support or they elaborate on different points. But yeah, I saw Durkheim. So yeah, evaluate the view that sociologists should use a scientific approach to research. Positivists strongly support the use of scientific approach because they believe it enables objective and value-free research. Inspired by natural sciences such as biology or physics, positivists argue that sociology should focus on social facts, patterns of behaviors that exist independently of individuals. Durkheim's study of suicide is a Durkheim's study of suicide is a classic example as he used statistical data to demonstrate how suicide rates varied systematically with social factors like religion and marital status. By applying scientific principles such as measurement, hypothesis testing, and replication, Durkheim showed that sociology could explain social behavior through observable and measurable causes, making it a genuinely scientific discipline. Now, I'm not asking you to learn this entire thing. What I'm asking you to do is read and read thoroughly and read again. Put your phone at a side and read. The more you read, the better you'd be able to elaborate. Once you're well read, then these pointers would make more sense to you because you'd eventually have to, no one's going to ask you to write your answer in points. I'm trying to prepare you for an evaluative essay question, and you saw the amount of times you've had questions on this particular topic, starting all the way from the specimen paper, or rather, I showed you a question from November 2003, way before you were born. So these pointers, they make sense to you only when you're well read. Read the answers from the booklet. You don't have the booklet, that's okay, that's totally fine. Read content from the book and then try learning these pointers. Merely taking screenshots of all of this and then relying on, I mean, eventually you'd have to turn all of this into a paragraph. I can do that because I've been doing this since a while. Ask yourself, can you? If not, then please listen to what I'm saying. Go back and read. So the grounded theory, an example of this could be participant observation, or an example of this could be qualitative interviews, just the way Venkatesh did. Remember Sudhir Venkatesh, the British sociologist from a South Asian origin, Indian origin, the study that he conducted for around 7 years, 7.5 years, and the book he wrote, Gang Leader for a Day. Like I keep on saying, go to YouTube, just type down Sudhir Venkatesh Gang Leader for a Day, and you'd come across so many videos on this. Now, what Venkatesh did was he started collecting data without any perceived ideas. And then based on that, he started building up his theory. So this is how it starts. It starts from scratch. It starts from the base. It starts from the ground. You start collecting data. Based on that data, you come up with an analysis. Through that analysis, you form patterns and relationships. Based on that, you move on towards theories. Now, a question over here is, can the inductive and deductive approaches be combined together? Yes, many researchers, they use the inductive and deductive approaches, both. So in a nutshell, we've spoken about these two different approaches. Bottom-up approach, we also refer to this as the grounded theory. I might as well just write it down here. Or you also refer to this as the induction approach. On the other hand, you have the top-down theory. Since this is already written, you refer to this as the top-down approach. If you still don't get this, I've divided this entire thing into two sides, the left side and the right side. All you have to do is focus on the direction of the arrows. ये arrows ऊपर की तरफ जा रहे हैं इसलिए हम इसे bottom up approach कह रहे हैं. ये arrows नीचे की तरफ आ रहे हैं इसलिए हम इसे top down theory कह रहे हैं, top down approach कह रहे हैं. So this is what we were discussing so far. And if I try giving a quick little recap of what we've covered so far, we spoke about positivism, and we spoke about the deductive approach, and we spoke about Karl Popper, and we spoke about the inductive approach, and we spoke about grounded theory. That is, start your research without any preconceived ideas. Let's take this ahead and talk about Thomas Kuhn. Let me show you if the marking scheme or this particular marking scheme has the name mentioned here. Here you go, Cohn, Thomas Cohn. What's the question again? Evaluate the view that sociologists should use a scientific approach. So Cohn believes sociologists should not. And that is why we see his name under the heading of against. Evaluate the view that sociologists should use a scientific approach. And over here we see Thomas Cohn's name under the against column. This question that I'm showing you is from May June 2023, variant 1-2. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Now, as we speak, okay, I'm short on time. I'm not sure if I should step into this, but let's just do it. So, according to Cohn, when you talk about science, I'm starting with science here, okay? According to Thomas Cohn, when you talk about science, in science, you almost always, or rather say you always have a paradigm. Thomas Cohn claims in science, you always have a paradigm. What does the word paradigm over here mean? A set of ideas that everyone believes in without even questioning it. थॉमस कोन क्लेम करता है कि साइंस के अंदर हमारे पास हमेशा या साइंटिफिक वर्ल्ड हमारी पैराडाइम्स की बेसिस पे ऑपरेट करती है. अब पैराडाइम किस चीज को कह रहे हैं हम? जब हम पैराडाइम का वर्ड यूज कर रहे हैं तो अकॉर्डिंग टू थॉमस कोन, a paradigm is a set of ideas that are by and large believed by scientists, right? A set of ideas that are by and large believed by scientists. And this right now, I've opened page number 125 from your student book, which students refer to as the purple book. Open that book if you have it with you. So according to Thomas Cohn, for Thomas Cohn, normal science, the vast majority, normal science, okay, normal science, keep this in mind. The vast majority of work, which is called science, differs from both these views. Cohn argues that the way science has developed bears little relationship to the conventional views of scientific method. कौन बिलीव करता है कि जब साइंस अपने नॉर्मल स्टेट में होती है, थोड़ी देर के बाद हम बात करेंगे कि क्यों कह रहे हैं नॉर्मल स्टेट में होती है. कौन बिलीव करता है कि जब साइंस अपने नॉर्मल स्टेट में होती है तो द वास्ट मेजॉरिटी ऑफ वर्क व्हिच इज later on referred to as science differs from both these views. Both which views? Both the views of Durkheim and Popper. Durkheim and Popper, they both believe that scientific methods should be used, right? Science consists of, I have a question. I should have waited till I finish, but okay, since I've opened it. Okay, I'll answer your question as I proceed with this. So for Durkheim, science consists of accumulating evidence and developing theories from that evidence. Popper claims science consists of creating testable theories and attempting to falsify them. Third person, Thomas Cohn, he claims when it comes to normal science, the vast majority of work, which is called science, differs from both of these views. Cohn in 1962 claims, he argued that the way science has developed bears little relationship to conventional views of the scientific method. According to Cohn, most of the time scientists are busily preoccupied with normal science. Normal science operates within a paradigm. This is the term that I'd use, a paradigm. What is a paradigm? A paradigm is a framework of concepts and theories which states how the natural world operates. It identifies appropriate methods for such studying that world and specifies what questions to ask and how to answer them. A paradigm is shared by members of the scientific community. It shapes the way that they see the world that they study. So, according to Thomas Cohn, नॉर्मल साइंस पैराडाइम्स की बेसिस पे ऑपरेट कर रही होती है. पैराडाइम हम इधर किस चीज को कह रहे हैं? जब हम पैराडाइम का वर्ड यूज करते हैं तो वो सेट ऑफ आइडियाज, वो सेट ऑफ बिलीव्स, वो कॉन्सेप्ट्स, वो थ्योरीज जिसे साइंटिस्ट ब्लाइंडली फॉलो कर रहे होते हैं विदाउट इवन टेस्टिंग इट. Now, normal science operates within the confines of a paradigm, developing and refining it, but not challenging it. So paradigms keep on getting, they keep on being developed, they keep on being refined, but no one dares challenging them. For example, until the 16th century, Western astronomy was based on the theory of terracentricity. What is that? The idea that planets and the sun move around the Earth. It is perfectly possible to confirm the idea with observations and measurements. It is also possible to ignore or explain away contradictory evidence that might challenge it. Scientists are so committed to the existing paradigms that they operate within it rather than attempting to falsify it. Now, if I sum this entire thing up, according to Thomas Kuhn, normal science operates on the basis of paradigms. What are these paradigms? The set of ideas, beliefs, theories, concepts that scientists blindly follow. They might refine them, they might develop them, but they don't challenge them. And then, according to Cohen, a time comes when people starts raising concerns about these paradigms. They can time बढ़ता गया 10 साल, 15 साल, 20 साल, 30 साल, 50 साल, in a couple of decades maybe. People start raising concerns related to that particular paradigm. People start questioning that particular paradigm and questions that demand answers that are not available. एक टाइम ऐसा आता है जब लोग उन पैराडाइम से रिलेटेड क्वेश्चंस पूछना शुरू कर देते हैं, ऐसे क्वेश्चंस जिनका कोई जवाब ही नहीं होता. Cohn rejects the conventional view that sees science as a progressive accumulation of knowledge based on the testing and proving or disapproving of hypotheses. Change does occur, but only when one paradigm is replaced by another. Bang. Now, what Cohn is referring to over here is a scientific revolution. According to थॉमस कोन, ये जो पैराडाइम्स होते हैं ये हमेशा के लिए नहीं चलते. एक ऐसा टाइम आता है जब लोग इन पैराडाइम्स पे सवाल उठाना शुरू कर देते हैं और उस पॉइंट पे ये पैराडाइम्स बहुत ज्यादा शेकी हो जाते हैं, बहुत ज्यादा वल्नरेबल हो जाते हैं और साइंस एक बड़े क्योटिक स्टेट में होती है. Anomaly कहते हैं इसको, बल्कि I'll show this to you if I have it. Oh yeah, this is amazing. So according to Cohen, एक पैराडाइम है वो आपके पास चल रहा है. फिर एक ऐसा टाइम आता है जब उस पैराडाइम पे लोग सवाल उठाना शुरू कर देते हैं. दिस इज व्हेन वी रेफर टू इट, दिस इज व्हेन वी से ओ दिस पैराडाइम इज इन अ स्टेट ऑफ एनॉमली, व्हेन देयर आर क्वेश्चंस आस्क्ड, क्वेश्चंस दैट डू नॉट हैव आंसर्स, and that means that particular that means that particular paradigm is in a state of crisis then. And once a paradigm is in a state of crisis, this is when newer sociologists, this is when newer scientists put that opportunity to use and bring in a revolution. And through this revolution, there comes another paradigm, which is different from the initial paradigm that was there. And now, with the passage of time, this newer paradigm starts gaining popularity. Maybe a year, 2 years, a decade, 2 decades, 5 decades, 10 decades, a century. And then people would start raising concerns about that particular paradigm too, which would put that paradigm in a state of anomaly, which would again put that paradigm in a state of crisis, which again would give newer scientists now an opportunity to come up with a scientific revolution, leading or paving its way towards the new paradigm. So this is how it works. Let's get back to the text that we had here. Cohn rejects the conventional view that sees science as a progressive accumulation of knowledge based on testing and proving or disapproving hypotheses. Change does occur, but only when one paradigm is replaced by another. Cohn calls this process a scientific revolution. It is sudden and revolutionary because a whole way of thinking about the world is swept away within a relatively short period of time. इसको इसीलिए ये scientific revolution कह रहा है. An example is the replacement of Newton's paradigm in physics with Einstein's. Once a new paradigm is established, normal science resumes, and any real change has to wait until the next scientific revolution or breakthrough. Scientific revolutions occur when evidence accumulates that cannot be explained. Like, if you remember, I was using the word anomaly. I spoke about anomalies there. Scientific revolutions occur when evidence accumulates that cannot be explained in terms of the existing paradigm. This evidence builds to the point where it cannot be ignored or dismissed as a result of correct observation and measurement. Now, so since the last 5-10 minutes, all I've done is spoken about Thomas Kuhn and science. So where is sociology here? This is where the magic part is. Remember when I'd initially said, according to Kuhn, in science, we always have a particular paradigm that the scientists almost unanimously agree upon. A paradigm that scientists show their blind faith in, certain concepts, certain theories that scientists not only follow, they might work towards refining it, developing it, but not challenging it. So the takeaway over here should be साइंस में हमेशा एक पैराडाइम होता है. The takeaway here over here should be in science we always have a paradigm that scientists unanimously agree upon. However, if we speak about sociology, Thomas Kuhn claims sociology isn't there as yet. Thomas Kuhn claims sociology does not have any such theory, any such perspective that they all unanimously show agreement towards. Yeah. So according to Kuhn, sociology to this date is in a pre-scientific phase because आपके पास कोई ऐसा पैराडाइम नहीं है, कोई ऐसी थ्योरी नहीं है, कोई ऐसा पर्सपेक्टिव नहीं है, कोई ऐसा स्कूल ऑफ थॉट नहीं है जिसपे सब यूनानिमसली एग्री करते हो. तो the answer to that initial question, can sociology be used in science? Sorry, can science be used in sociology? The answer, according to Cohen, is no. Sociology and paradigms. In terms of Cohen's view of science, it has been argued that sociology is in a pre-paradigmatic and therefore a pre-scientific situation. There's a range of competing sociological perspectives, but scant indication that this variety will develop into a single paradigm that would be acceptable to the sociological community. However, Cohen's view of paradigms and scientific revolution has been criticized as a distortion of history of science. Now, it's not that Cohen hasn't been criticized too. According to Lakatos criticized Cohen. According to Lakatos, what Cohen has done is a misinterpretation of science. According to Lakatos, Cohen is not presenting science as he should, as it truly is. According to Lakatos, he rejects the view that normal science is dominated by a single paradigm. Lakatos कहता है ऐसा नहीं है कि साइंस के अंदर हमेशा ही एक सिंगल पैराडाइम हो जिसे सारे लोग यूनानिमसली फॉलो करते हो. Instead, he sees the development of science as a history of constantly competing paradigms. In terms of Lakatos's view, this does not disqualify sociology from being a science. In fact, sociology's history of competing perspectives largely accords with his view of the history of science. So, a nutshell, the takeaway from here. Cohen believes no scientific methods should not be used in sociology, based on the explanation that I was trying to give you since the last 10 minutes. According to Lakatos, yes, sociology, yes, you cannot disqualify sociology from being a science. Lakatos claim करता है कि अगर आप sociology की history, Lakatos claim करता है कि अगर आप sociology की history उठा के देखते हैं, तो the competing perspectives that have been there, they largely accord with the views of the history of science. He's trying to look for the similarities. Lakatos is trying to look for the similarities between natural sciences and sociology. So yeah. Now, where is the question again? We spoke about paradigms as well. Taking this ahead, I'm a little doubtful. Should I wrap this up here? Because I want to speak about realism. I want to speak about interpretivism. So yeah, I think I just wrap this class here and we divide this topic into two parts. And I'd continue with this in the next lesson. And hopefully, if I remember, hopefully I do, I'd be discussing an answer on this as well. So yeah, meanwhile, I showed you how significant this topic is. I showed you how popular this topic is in terms of the CIs. The choice is yours. You either let this be or you read it through the book, go through the marking scheme. You'd be able to write down one side of the argument at least, the argument that scientific methods can be used in sociology. For the other side, for the flip side of the argument, we would be discussing interpretivism, and I'd like to discuss interpretivism in detail. And for that, I think for that, I don't think I have enough of time to be able to do justice to that topic. So yeah, I'll just wrap this lesson up here.